Want to bring in two people who know a lot about the Manson estate and what it could be worth to whoever inherits it. Mary Jacob is the real estate reporter for the New York Post, and Andy Mayoras is an attorney and the author of the book Trial and Heirs: Famous Fortune Fights. Andy, I want to start with you. We've heard estimates that this estate worth $400,000, could be even more. Some even say $1 million. But it seems to me the publishing and image rights, again, it's disturbing, but people have fascinations with these psychos. Those rights could be even worth more than the cash, couldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. The cash is really a very, very small part of this estate. And it's really the music royalties along with the image rights that could really drive the value of this estate, especially when you look at the fact that Quentin Tarantino's movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from a couple years ago heavily featured Charles Manson's song that he wrote that was later recorded by Guns N' Roses. So the royalties from that alone could be easily hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Brian, I really have to applaud you for pressing Channel's lawyer about going after that money, because, you know, it is blood money and there could end up being a lot of it.
Yeah, something about the whole thing I think would make anyone uncomfortable. I mean, this guy is responsible for people's deaths, and now you've got people trying to get rich off of it. But as I mentioned, people have this weird fascination. Mary, do you think there's still enough interest in Manson now in 2022 to actually make his image that profitable? I mean, with the younger generation, do they really care about Manson anymore?
Well, I mean, if there's one thing history has shown us, Americans and their fascination with the grisly. So you have the popular murder documentaries, you have the murder trials, films, the Manson-based film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, as you mentioned. So there's definitely a profit to be made here, up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. He, even aside from like his Beach Boys catalog, he wrote over 100 songs in prison alone that people would want to dissect just on its own. So there's definitely interest there, and the American people have kind of proven that time and time again.
And Andy, you heard Mary talking there about profit. It all comes back to profit. Isn't there some kind of rule that a killer can't make money off of a crime like this? Isn't there a way that this money could go back to victims or to some kind of charity to help other people so that we don't have to keep using this word profit?
Yeah, well, it's a fairly complicated legal process in order to stop that from happening. And unfortunately, most likely the time for that has long passed. There is only one victim's family who actually brought a wrongful death lawsuit against Charles Manson and did collect a substantial judgment. And that did lead to that family recovering some money in the past. But judgments have to be renewed every 10 years, and we're talking now over 50 years, and the other families did not bring suit. So right now, there's no outstanding judgments to be collected upon. So all the money, all the profit goes into Charles Manson's estate, and from there to whichever of these two battling heirs ends up winning.
And it is a battle. Okay, I'm going to ask both of you this, but I want to start with you, Mary. How do you think this plays out? Do you think the pen pal will win in the end, or do you think it's going to be the grandson?
Well, last month there was a ruling acknowledging that Jason Friedman is Manson's grandson. And as long as the court continues to recognize him as such, he is likely going to be the full beneficiary of Manson's estate. And I don't see that changing as of right now. I mean, Mr. Lyon's client, Michael Channel, because he was not in the room and directly handed the will by Manson, there is a law in California that states that there would be doubt that Manson even signed it. It would be hard to prove without a doubt that Manson was the one to have signed that will. So that already makes it fairly difficult for Channel.
What do you think, Andy? Pen pal or grandson winning in the end?
Yeah, I actually agree with Mary because the probate laws of various states, including California, have certain formalities that have to be followed for a will to be valid. And a will like this would normally require the signature of 2 witnesses, not 1. And here, as Channel's lawyer just confirmed, only 1 witness signed it, which that puts the burden of proof on Channels to prove by clear and convincing evidence that this will is a valid will. And as Mary said, he wasn't there. He was presented it after the fact. He can't take the stand and testify how this will was created. So how is he going to meet that burden of proof? So I agree with you, Mary. I think there's a good chance that the grandson's going to prevail here.
Mary, we obviously heard about the pen pal through the attorney who was just on and had this fascination and was writing Manson in jail for so many years. But what do we know about the grandson? Has he said at all what his intentions would be with the money, Mary?
He hasn't really made it known exactly what he wants to do with the money. I find that fascinating, considered that his own father took his own life, because we don't have full proof of this, but it's leaning towards the fact that he was associated with Manson and that his father was Charles Manson. So his own father took his own life because of his affiliation with the Manson family murders. So the fact that his son, who, by the way, changed his name also to not be associated with Manson, now wants to be involved in his estate for profit reasons, I would assume, is, quite disconcerting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Changed the name until he wanted to go after the money.
Exactly.
Listen, very, very interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch how it plays out. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this money will be going to help any of the victims. Mary Jacob and Andy Mayoras, thank you both so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.